I think part of a path of realization or a path of becoming more and more conscious is a path in which we learn over time to differentiate what does feel like it might be perhaps more personal, more psychological, more something to respond to in a way that really needs some sort of course correction. And what things that come into our consciousness are things that we don't have to engage. We can engage them, or we may not engage them. But I think the more conscious we become, the more sense of choice we have, the more options are available to us, whether we want to give a lot of our attention to a given topic or whether we don't. And I think the more conscious we become, the more we can draw upon our past experience and let it inform us what seems valuable to give our time and attention to and what doesn't. And sometimes there's different sort of litmus tests to decide that. Maybe something's just fascinating or interesting or entertaining. Maybe something's gives us a certain kind of nourishment. Maybe something just really kind of feeds our well-being. Maybe another thing that we give our time and attention to sort of lights up something inside that feels really alive and vital. Maybe it's creativity or being energized through connection with the past, with our ancestry, with our sense of tribe, with whatever it might be. There's a bazillion different avenues for us to gain information these days or expose ourselves to things that really spark our interest. And I think that there is a kind of basic human need to feel vitalized and to feel connection with certain things that we encounter and learn about or are informed about. And so there's different kinds of litmus tests of what we give our attention to. Maybe some things feed our heart, some things feed our mind, some things seem to support our health or our physicality. Some things might seem to really speak to our soul. And some things might seem to foster new capacities within us. Maybe certain things develop more of our intuitions or our imagination or our ability to discern. So there's all manner of reasons why we give our attention to certain things. But I think the mark of a person who's truly committed to a path of becoming more conscious is that that person is cognizant that when they're giving their time and attention to something, they're more aware of why it is that they're doing that or what the outcome of that is. And so it's important when we decide what inquiries and questions we're going to really give our time and attention to really see what's in play in that line of questioning. Are we using our time wisely? Is it of value? And that's not to say we always have to be working hard, or always, forever, being serious. Sometimes it's very valuable to take a break or to have fun or, to see that progress isn't always through pushing. So So I'm not trying to put a judgment on how people spend their time. I just think that it's valuable to be really conscious of what the trade-off is when we give our time to certain things, and what the benefits are and what the detriments are. And I know that as a human being myself, and talking to each of you as human beings, sometimes we explore this gamut, and we may go in one direction for a while before we realize that maybe it's not the best direction, or maybe that direction is only good when it's in moderation. And so sometimes we have to kind of ride a wider bandwidth of exploration before we get the sense of how to hone in our path, and have more focus and direction to what we give ourselves to, and what we give our time to. Now, another hallmark of a person who's really interested in a path of becoming more conscious, and a path of realization, is to also really stop and get a sense of who and what they are essentially, before they get too caught up in what they're going to give their time and attention to as far as interests or even inquiries. It can be really valuable to just get a sense of who is it that's living this life, and who is it that is observing, or who or what is it that's observing our experience, our emotional states, our thinking, our conclusions, our emotional stances, our how we hold ourselves, or whether that be defensively or offensively, or something in more neutral, or more settled, or more, as that person asked about, more expressive of someone who's taken their seat, or someone who's connected with their heart. So I think that it's really valuable to get a sense of what's happening at point A before we get too preoccupied with whether we're going to put our attention at point B, C, D, or E. And I think by returning a sense of our energetics that would go out into seeking and tracking and becoming fascinated, or curious about so many things, it can be, not that any of that's bad, but it can be really helpful in the equation to get a sense of having a lot of energy also reside in a more grounded place, in a more connected place, a place that's feels like we have a connection to ourselves, and how that connection with what's happening here in our bodies, and in our depth, and in our core, how that awareness of that can give us a lot of information about, when we give our energy to this, how it might reverberate in that core as something meaningful, or something valuable, or something kind of off the mark, or more off-putting, or more just out of alignment. And so I think a lot of our perspectives are informed by kind of how we fundamentally reside in ourselves.